Welcome back to another edition of the Common Constitutionalist Weekly Podcast, and I am, as always, the Common Constitutionalist. This time I hope to bring to you three topics. The first is another story of the left eating one of its own, this time over Halloween costumes, and this time it's at Yale University. Next up is, oh look, Hillary's a crook. And so is her campaign. What a shocker. And lastly, 49ers backup quarterback Colin Kapernick is in the news again, this time over his relationship. He's being slammed once again. Today on the Common Constitutionalist.
You're listening to the Common Constitutionalist, broadcast from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black helicopters.
All right, let's get right to it, shall we? This first piece comes to us, or actually I guess it comes to me from the Daily Mail, and then I'm going to give it to you. So, Halloween is fast approaching, and for those who dress up and go to parties and whatnot, you're probably wondering what kind of costume you should wear this year. Maybe you should match your significant other. Maybe you're a single, you're just going to go out to somewhere and wear a costume or whatnot. But if you happen to be at Yale University, one of the fine, hallowed halls of academe, you're going to have to think twice before you don that Halloween costume this year. It seems that the students at Yale University, yes, the oppressed, the downtrodden, these poor little waifs that just happened upon Yale freaking University are complaining. A new video has surfaced of a Yale professor. Now, this is a Yale University professor. He's being protested and yelled at by students for sending an email telling them to ignore people, just ignore people, dressed in offensive or racist Halloween costumes. Oh, heavens. There are videos of this thing, and you can see there's a mob of about 100 students surrounding this poor guy. His name is Nicholas Christakis, and he was, past tense, we'll get to that in a minute, was, past tense, a professor of social and natural science. So, I guarantee you he ain't no conservative. At least I wouldn't think so. First, he's at Yale, and then he's a professor of social science, egad. But despite his no doubt liberal bona fides, he ain't liberal enough, evidently. The mob of 100 students and the diversity of these 100 students is awe-inspiring. Every color of the rainbow is represented by the students yelling, screaming, and crying at this guy to apologize for his email, for his insensitive email, and his wife's insensitive email. She's an awful shrew, too. Now, watching this video, you can't help but feel bad for this poor son of a gun. But in another aspect, it is funny to watch the left not be leftist enough. The old left, these old professors, these guys, this guy looks like he's probably in his mid-60s or something. I don't know what he is. But being berated and yelled at and crying and screaming and just the gnashing of teeth by these pathetic, whiny, privileged students that go to Yale University, crying and whining at him that he's not leftist enough. So I guess in a way it's kind of funny that the left, they eat their own. If they're leftist but they're not leftist enough, they're gonna get the wrath of ultra liberals, of radicals, and that's what these kids are. They're all a bunch of freaking radicals. So the Daily Mail writes that in the first this stuff is great. It just is fabulous. It's pathetic, but it's just it's pathetic to see how pitiful, what a bunch of wieners these students are. They're just worthless is what they are. They just can't seem to get out of their own way. and they're offended by literally everything. But in the first video, a student is seen berating Christakis for not even knowing her name. How dare he? And Yale University has what, like 60,000 students or 40,000 students? I don't know what they've got, but it's a really big student body. And Christakis has probably been there forever. Has probably seen thousands and thousands of students come through his door, and he's expected to remember this one girl, and she is beside herself. She says, like I said, she berates Christakis for not knowing her name. I was in your class freshman year, the girl says. You were my sophomore year advisor. I live here. I eat in the dining hall for all 3 meals. You should know my name. My name is Michaela. Who cares if he knows your name? What the heck does that have to do with Halloween? Nothing, of course. But she is just incensed that this old buck doesn't know her name. And it's just you should see these girls crying, and you'd think that their next of kin was just killed or something. It's just unreal. They continue, another student who identifies herself as Lisa then steps in and becomes emotional while questioning why Christakis won't say that he is sorry for the email. So then apologize, she screams before bursting into tears over the Halloween costumes. I don't understand the issue. That's because there is no issue, you dimwit. But you guys are going to make an issue out of a non-issue. And that's what you do, don't you? So, at this point, if Christakis was smart, he would have told these students to go crap in their hat, because he probably wasn't long for this world anyway. But he didn't. As a good leftist, he tried to apologize. He said, first off, I would like to apologize for hurting your feelings. Boo-hoo. He didn't say boo-hoo, that was me. That was me. In addition, I will acknowledge that this comes from a very deep and legitimate source of complaint. Yeah, sure. I understand it. I understand to the extent that I can understand some of the struggles that many of you have had. However, a female student quickly shouts, I do not respect you. I'm looking at the smirk on your face, and I'm disgusted. Oh, heavens. She continues, I want your job to be taken from you over this. She wants him to be canned over this. I don't want you to have this job. I'm disgusted knowing that you work at Yale University, where I will be getting my degree. Yeah, well, if you're so freaking lucky, you'll be getting your degree. Where I look back and think I had to argue with you. So this is how these students want this to go down, over a simple email where this guy basically says that if you don't like what people are wearing, just look away, walk away. So what? I mean, it's not going to hurt you, it's not going to help you, it's not going to do anything to your life if this person wears an Indian headband or something as a costume or whatever, even in blackface. How is that going to affect the rest of your lives? It's just pathetic. But you want to affect the rest of this poor sap's life. And maybe he isn't a poor sap. Maybe he is a complete a-hole. I don't know. I don't care. All I know is that this is ridiculous. Wanting this guy's job because he wrote a simple email that basically said that if you don't like the Halloween costume that you're looking at, don't look at it. Give me a break. And his wife, Mrs. Christakis, also no longer works at the university. She came under attack in last October for her response to a request from the Intercultural Affairs Committee that students avoid wearing racially insensitive costumes such as Native American headgear, turbans, and blackface. Mrs. Christakis wrote in an email to students living in the residence hall where she was an administrator that they should be able to wear any costume they wanted. Oh no, any costume they wanted? What about the thought police? What about the costume police? This cannot stand. She wrote, is there no room anymore for a child or young person to be a little bit obnoxious? No. Well, unless you're a lefty obnoxious, and then you can be obnoxious as you like as these crying and gnashing of teeth young women, these pathetic bubble children. She continued, a little bit inappropriate or provocative, or yes, even offensive, she wrote. American universities were once a safe space not only for maturation, but also for a certain regression, or even transgression, experience. Increasingly, it seems, they have become places of censure and prohibition. And you got that right, Mrs. Christakis, the ex-employee of Yale University, Mrs. Christakis. So, because they happen to basically said that, look, these kids have a right to wear whatever the heck they want, and if you don't like it, you can lump it. It ain't going to kill you. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to affect your life one way or the other. Grow the heck up and get some, and just walk away or look away. No, that's not good enough. They have to be punished by losing their jobs over something as ridiculous as this. And this is how absurd that American universities and colleges have become now. And it's getting worse and worse. Every month I do at least one article about this kind of nonsense, and I could probably do one a week or two or three a week at this point. That's how absurd that it's become. College campuses used to be like she said, the bastion of safety where you can be whatever you want to be and say whatever you want to say, and now you can't. Now the thought police, the speech police, the clothing police, the everything police, if it's not lefty enough, if it's not radical enough, and if it's not the way they want it, then forget you and get the crap off our campus. It's just absurd. So on that note, how about we take a quick break, shall we?
You're listening to the Common Constitutionalist. Let the truth be known.
All right, this next one comes to us from, well, a trifecta, I guess. It comes from the American Thinker, the New York Observer, and my joke man, Fred. Thank you, Fred. Now, what do we know about the Democrats? Well, what we know and what we're told are two completely different things. What we know is the Democrats, a lot of them are a bunch of crooks and criminals, liars, cheats, and so on and so forth. Okay, they can't get done what they need to get done without lying to the public about what they're going to do. They have to cheat, they have to lie, like Obamacare. You got to pass it to know what's in it. And then Gruber, the author of the Obamacare, said that they had to basically cheat and lie and say, different things to make sure that it passed, and everything was a lie. And this is the way Democrats do it. This is their mode of operation. But what we're told is that they're all about the little guy, okay? That Republicans are all about fat cats on Wall Street, which is obviously the exact opposite, because 99.9% of Wall Street fat cats give gazillions of dollars to freaking Democrats because of crony corporatism, obviously. Not that the Republicans aren't involved in crony corporatism too, but, that's the way it goes. But that's what they claim. They are all about the little guy. And Hillary is all about the little guy. And she's all about fleecing the little guy, evidently, according to my man Fred, the American Thinker, and the New York Observer, who is now granted the Observer is owned by Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, but that's beside the point because reporting is reporting. Whether it comes from the New York Times, which never had a lie that it wouldn't publish on the Democrat side, that is, or the Washington Times or IBD or Mark Levin or whoever. If it's the truth, it's the truth. It doesn't make any difference whether it comes from the National Enquirer. If it's the truth, then it's the truth. Now, one of the things Hillary's campaign has touted over the period of these long many months is how much money that the campaign has garnered through contributions. And the little guys are giving to Hillary, too, because they love Hillary equally. And Hillary loves them, because she's not only just taking their donations that they intend to give, but she's taking even more, because she knows that they love her more than they're giving, so she's taking more, or her campaign is taking more. And we know what the campaign, you don't work for somebody like Hillary Clinton, you don't work on her campaign if you don't think like her, if you don't act like her and whatnot. I hate to say that there probably aren't too many good guys working in the hierarchy of Hillary's campaign, but I'll bet you that there aren't many, if any. And it seems as if and there's actually proof of this through Wells Fargo Bank and whatnot, that Hillary's campaign is stealing from her poorest supporters by purposefully and repeatedly overcharging them as they make what's supposed to be one-time small donations. So, you go on the website and you make a donation, you put your credit card number or your debit card number that comes right out of your bank account, and you put that in, and away you go. You give $25, you give $50, you give $10, you give whatever you can. And if you're one of the working poor or some retiree or something, one of the FDR Democrats or something like that, and you think that Hillary's a good Democrat, but you can't afford much, maybe you'll give her $25, maybe you'll give her $15, whatever. You just want to say that you gave to the cause. Well, they're taking that 25 or 15 or whatever, and they're saying, thank you very much, madam or sir, and then a couple weeks later, they're going to take another 25, and then they're going to take another 25, and they're going to take all the way up to about $99, because as Wells Fargo Bank says, the Clinton campaign strategically doesn't overcharge these donors $100 or more, because the bank would be obligated to investigate the fraud. So you can, like one woman, this poor woman Claire Marr, who has a U.S. bank account, was charged. She originally donated, I think it was $19 or $25 or something like that. And then, and she thought that was that. She's an old retiree. And then she looked at her bank statement, called her son. Her son checked her bank statement, and there's a picture of her bank statement where the charges for the Hillary Clinton campaign, several charges, adding up to $94, not $19 or $25 or whatever she gave the first time around, taken out repeatedly, up to $94, and they know full well that because of Wells Fargo's rules that anything under $100 they will not they'll not open a fraud case on, and that's the way the campaign does it. They took $94 out of this poor old lady's account, and her son had to get involved to try and recoup her money, and U.S. Bank did refund her money, but they didn't open a fraud charge against the Clinton campaign because it was under $100, and obviously the Clinton campaign knows the rules. You can't do you certainly can't blame them for not knowing the rules and how to skate around them, you crooks. And evidently this is happening so often that the overcharges are happening so often that the fraud department at one of the nation's biggest banks, Wells Fargo, receives up to 100 phone calls a day from Clinton's small donors asking for refunds for unauthorized charges to their bank cards by the Clinton campaign. You have got to be, this is insane. This woman is so crooked. She's such a damn criminal. It is criminal. And she might be the next president of the United States. How far have we fallen as a country? And you drive around. My son and I were out today driving around doing some errands, and we see these huge houses with these huge signs in front, Clinton Kane signs, and other leftists for Senate and House and whatever. And these people, don't they get it? They don't care. And these other how you drive through the city and you got these dilapidated houses with their Hillary signs out front. They don't have clue one who this woman is, that she's a freaking crook. And that Wells Fargo reiterated, We don't investigate fraudulent charges unless they are over $100, the fraud specialist explained. The Clinton campaign knows this, and that's why we don't see any charges over $100 amount. They'll stop the charges just below $100. We'll see her campaign overcharge donors by $20, $40, $60, but never more than $100. And this is purposeful. This is criminal activity. This is fraud. And the fraud specialist added that the people who call us are just the ones who catch the fraudulent charges. I can't imagine how many more people are getting overcharged by Hillary Clinton's campaign and have no idea because they don't examine their accounts. And I'm susceptible to that too. I do my all my banking online like a dope, and I have my online account. I check it online. Sure, I check the charges, but I don't go line by line. Maybe I should start. Of course, I don't give to the Clinton campaign, so that's okay. And her Carol's son got involved, and he said that this is a load of crap. The self-righteousness of politicians drives me insane. If you and I did this, we'd be thrown in jail. This is theft, fraud, or wire fraud. It's a federal crime. But it makes her look great now, doesn't it? And that's really what counts, okay? Is to because all these multiple donations are all accounted for at the FEC, the Federal Election Commission. So it looks like Hillary's for the little guy because the little guy is really given to her. Yes, they're right. She's giving it to them is what's actually happening. This is what a crimp. I cannot believe that we might actually elect my Fanny probably. She is the biggest crook that this country has or will ever elect. That's my opinion, and that's my prediction. If this ends up turning out this way, absolutely unbelievable. Let's take a break.
You're listening to the Common Constitution. Let the truth be known.
All right, welcome back. And now, Colin Kaepernick, he's the backup quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers that everybody's been talking about for who knows how long at this point. Way too long, and he doesn't warrant this much attention, frankly. And I'm personally tired of talking about him, so I hope this is going to be it. But this one is actually kind of an interesting wrinkle that's turned up here recently. Kaepernick never seemed to have these views until recently, maybe the past year or so, I don't know, whatever. The interesting thing is that he has a girlfriend, I guess it's his fiancée. This woman's name is Nessa Diab, and she's a Muslim. Okay, so she's a Muslim, so what? And she is I guess a radio and TV personality. I don't know what that is, nor did I care enough to look into it. Don't care. Who cares? But she is also a leftist radical, and so if you, unless he's Mary Matlin and she is James Carville, you usually don't have a couple that is, we'll say, opposite, that have diametrically opposing political views. It usually doesn't occur. One will usually rub off on the other. And this may very well what has happened to Colin Kaepernick is that her radical views have rubbed off on him, and now he's the big Black Lives Matter advocate or something. I don't know. But these recent views of Colin Kaepernick has Iowa Republican Stephen King literally up in arms. Well, maybe not literally up in arms, but up in arms nonetheless. And he said in a Newsmax TV interview, he said, "I understand that he has an Islamic girlfriend that is his fiancée, and that this has changed him and he has taken on some different political views along the way." Well, that may very well be. And then he goes and says, "This is activism that's sympathetic to ISIS." Now, really, dude? I mean, no, I'm sorry. I've got to disagree. Taking a knee during the national anthem doesn't mean you're sympathetic to ISIS. Having a Muslim girlfriend doesn't mean you're sympathetic to ISIS or Sharia or anything else. Having a radical leftist girlfriend, that's a completely different story, because all of a sudden now it seems like, maybe not overnight, but a transformation has occurred in Colin Kaepernick from being a regular guy, I guess, to a black leftist radical activist, whatever. Now, for those who've been living under a rock or don't know or don't care, Kaepernick's San Francisco Niners quarterback that took a knee during the national, and he actually sat during one of the first national anthems during a preseason game, and then the week after that he took a knee, and one of his players took a knee, and now there's some hangers-on and some wannabe famous people that are also football players and soccer players or whatever it is that are taking a knee or doing some such nonsense, doing the black power fist in the air. I mean, give me a break. I mean, y'all are getting paid millions of dollars to play a game, and you're talking about oppression. Give me a break. But King, I think, gets a little carried away, in my opinion. He says that Colin Kaepernick's actions should disqualify him from playing football. Really? Until he's a little over the top on this one, sorry to say here, Representative King. Until you take a knee and beg forgiveness from the American people, you're not going to set foot on this field again. That's what he thinks that the American people should say to him. I mean, really. First off, he's not setting foot on the field anyway because he's riding the bench because he's just not that good. But I firmly believe, now that I've looked into this, that this Nessa Diab, radical leftist, has in fact influenced Kaepernick's political views. I found a picture that she posted on her Twitter account. I think it was Twitter or Instagram or whatever, who cares. It's a picture of Fidel Castro. And above the photo is the caption above the photo. Castro explains why Cuba has the highest literacy rate in the world. And under the photo, it reads, "We have the lowest student-teacher ratio and spend 5 times as much on school than war," the opposite of what America does. And this is what she is touting as being fabulous, Fidel Castro. So she is an absolute leftist radical, and I believe firmly that she has injected her views into Colin Kaepernick's politics, if there were any to begin with, and now he's become a radical jerkwad like she is. And so I don't think it's ISIS sympathizers. I have no idea. Just because she's Muslim doesn't mean she's an Islamist. Doesn't mean she subscribes to Sharia law, and I don't know that she's a Muslim or an Islamist radical, but she is in fact a leftist radical, and so he is turning out to be a leftist Black Lives Matter type radical, and that's a crying shame. And there have also been rumors that Kaepernick actually converted to Islam last year, but those have not been confirmed, and as a matter of fact, they've been denied. But it doesn't matter. I don't think the Islam thing is the thing that concerns anybody or should concern anybody. It's the fact that she's a radical leftist, and he's becoming a radical leftist, and that's a crying shame, is what it is. So I believe we are done. So y'all have a great balance of the weekend, and I want to thank you for listening. And this is the Common Constitutionalist signing off again, and I am out.
Thank you for listening to the Common Constitutionalist Weekly Podcast.